Reactions from Christians on his passing. Those were our headlines. Stay tuned for development in a moment. With Tarek Divine, Ramsey Jr.
Welcome back. And so starting earlier today, the world has been mourning the passing on of Pope Francis, who died at age 88 after serving a 12-year stint as spiritual leader of the Roman Catholic Church. His death came one day after he appeared in a wheelchair at St. Peter's Square in the Vatican to wish worshippers a happy Easter. So what have the reactions been across Cameroon and precisely in Douala? Cynthia Latte has more.
The St. Peter and Paul Cathedral progressively filled in with Christian faithful as they learn about the passing of Pope Francis. Many received confirmation of the news after the Vatican announced it in the early hours today. Lionel Kima, like many others, is still in disbelief as they mourn sorrowfully. Prayers are being offered for his soul.
It was really surprising to get up this morning and hear that he has died. It's really surprising. No one could suspect because he was sick.
Well, the world is crying, the continent also is crying, and I guess our country also is crying.
Many expressed surprise as the Pope made a public appearance yesterday, culminating Holy Week with Easter Sunday, where he greeted the crowd at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The impact of the leader of the Roman Catholic Church remains vividly remembered.
The papacy of Pope Francis has been that of the poor, has been that of preaching the good news.
The Pope had a lot of influence, politically speaking, socially speaking, in all the aspects through his various positions.
He has been for anybody, for the entire world, the Pope of the poor. He was not the Pope only for the Catholic Church, but the Pope for the entire humanity.
Religious authorities emphasize that they will continue in prayers.
Many things are supposed to be done according to the canon law. But for we, the main thing we have to do as our His Excellency Monsignor Samuel Slater asked us is just to pray. To organize the funeral of Pope Francis, the cardinal, the college of the cardinal, they will have the meeting, the conclave, and after they will elect a new Pope. So it is the time for the prayer.
Pope Francis was admitted to Rome's Gemelica Hospital on February 14, where he was diagnosed with bilateral pneumonia on February 18 due to his chronic bronchitis. After 38 days, he returned to the Vatican to recover. Pope Francis passed away on Easter Monday, April 21 at 88.
And so the death of Pope Francis continues drawing tributes and eulogies from across the globe. Earlier today at the St. Peter and Paul's Cathedral in Douala, the Metropolitan Archbishop Samuel Cliquez expressed deep sorrow, calling the loss a significant one for the entire Christian community. Speaking to reporters, he urged the faithful to emulate the life of Pope Francis. He urged Christians to pray for him while underscoring his immense and extraordinary contributions and rich legacy. According to him, Pope Francis was a champion and a hero for the poor, denouncing injustice while celebrating humility as Jesus Christ did. Meantime, the Pope will be remembered as the first pontiff from Latin America, as well as the first from the Jesuit order. His transformative papacy calls for humility, environmental stewardship, and reforms within the ranks of the Catholic Church will leave a lasting legacy on the global religious landscape, as you tell us, Gladys Ambondiban.
The death of Pope Francis marks the end of a historic and transformative era for the Catholic Church. Elected in March 2013, following the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Francis born George Mario Bergoglio on December 17, 1936 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, broke centuries of present. He was the first pope from the Western Hemisphere, the first South American and the first member of the Jesuit order to ascend to the papacy. His election came during a time of uncertainty and scandal within the church, with widespread calls for transparency and renewal. Upon his election, Bergoglio chose the name Francis, honoring Saint Francis of Assisi, known for his life of simplicity and service to the poor. Throughout his pontificate, Francis championed social justice, environmental protection, and interfaith dialogue. In 2015, he issued Laudato Si, which means praise be to you, a groundbreaking papal encyclical calling for urgent global action on climate change. He emphasized the moral responsibility to protect our common home, positioning the church as a leading voice in the climate movement. Pope Francis was also a powerful advocate for unity across faiths and ideologies. He made historic gesture towards other Christian denominations, non-Christian religions, and even non-believers. In 2013, he made headlines for suggesting that Christ had redeemed all, and comments interpreted as inclusive of atheists and agnostics. Though the Vatican later clarified his meaning, his tenure was not without controversy. Francis faced criticism from traditionalists within the church for his informal style and perceived departures from long-standing doctrines. One of his earliest moves was to establish a council of cardinal advisors to reform the church's governance.
And so the Pope's passing has not only sparked global mourning, it has also set into motion a process that will lead to the election of a new pontiff. All that will happen at a conclave of cardinals to be scheduled between 15 and 15 days of the Pope, as you tell us, Cliquez.
With the passing of Pope Francis on April 21, the Catholic Church stands on the brink of a pivotal transition. As the first Latin American Pope, Francis championed social justice, environmental issues, and inclusivity. Now the College of Cardinals is set to convene at the Vatican for a conclave that will not only select the next leader of 1.27 billion Catholic, but also determine the Church's future direction. Will the next Pope uphold Francis's progressive reforms, or will the Cardinals step back towards conservatism? The answer will be revealed when the iconic white smoke rises from the Sistine Chapel. The next Pope will inherit the Church significantly shaped by Francis's appointments and reforms, including a decentralization of Vatican power and a diverse array of non-European cardinals. However, his unilateral governance style has left the College of Cardinals in a state of uncertainty. He selected the majority of the cardinals who possess the right to vote. Note Rich Lenner, a theology professor at the University of Notre Dame, yet his approach has hindered relationship building among them. A critical issue for the conclave will be Francis's handling of sexual abuse cases, which has divided church leaders. Can the voters trust that the person they elect is not a sexual predator? Meantime, a proper conclave begins 15 to 20 days after a pope's death, allowing time for funeral rites and for cardinals to gather in Vatican City. The outcome remains uncertain until a new pope is elected behind closed doors, as ideological factions weigh their options between continuity and conservatism.
It's getting on close to 30 minutes after 6 p.m. across Cameroon. You're watching the news on Canal International. Let's now move on to something else altogether, because last April the 4th, Marie Ngombok, a primary school teacher serving in the east region of Cameroon, suddenly died. Several weeks later, her death continues generating controversy. In fact, her teachers' trade union says her demise was provoked by sexual harassment and pressure from her superiors, as she tells Beatrice Ngamo in Yaoundé.
Over 2 weeks after the death of Marie Ngombok, 35-year-old teacher at the Atok Government Primary School in the Upper Nyong Division of the East region of Cameroon, the teachers' unionists are accusing the superiors of sexual harassment, which allegedly contributed to her death from a stroke. For many months, Madame Ngombok Marie had been object of sexual harassment from her superior hierarchy, unnecessary remarks, inappropriate jests, evil-minded instances which she tried to signal to many. Unfortunately, her complaints were ignored, minimized, and at times choked. Reaching the elder sister on telephone, she told us Marie's crime was her refusal to grant sexual favors to school administrators, leading to retaliation. For about 6 months, it has been one threat to another: denial of maternity leave after a cesarean section, exclusion from personal registration of state workers, her quest for transfer and other supports were ignored, and her pay was stopped. Long, stressful torment she recounts in this telephone audio sound.
Seigneur, pourquoi tu ne savais pas? Je ne sais pas.
Harassment, depression, stress, too much for this teacher, who was giving her all in 9 years of service. A stroke from high blood pressure got hold of her, and on April 4th, she gave up the ghost. Though the family, like colleagues, attest her death from all the trauma from her own school director, inspector of education, and divisional delegate. The Ministry of Basic Education were reached since Thursday on the matter, say they are not aware of the happening. The divisional officer of Benben Atok, we wrote, replied, it is not possible for him to accord any interview to us in that light. The Union of Teachers of Cameroon are asking the Minister of Basic Education to react on the matter.
Il est impératif que le ministère
Imperative for the ministry to take concrete measures to prevent sexual harassment in the school milieu and to establish a healthy working condition. Harassment, especially in the education sector, is rife, but many teachers are afraid to denounce this crime. I'm telling women that the main way to avoid this different abuse is to speak out. Keeping to yourself, you are likely to get to depression, as Madame Ngombok Marie suffered. The case has sparked outrage.
Now, on to something else, but still in education. It may be safe to conclude that the second term of the ongoing school year, set to debut on April the 22nd, that's tomorrow, Tuesday, is in doubt. The Cameroon Teachers Organization says it is going ahead with a planned strike action following failed negotiations with the government. In fact, the teachers are pressing for a special status for themselves, as well as the convening of a national education forum before the presidential election in October, she tells us at Bonaventure.
Total boycott of schools from April 22 to April 25. Members of the Cameroon Teachers Organization, COREC, have decided to march words with action, despite the assurance by the government through the Interministerial Committee to provide adequate solutions to their demands that include the convening of the National Education Forum and special status for teachers.
Those indicators can be summed up into two requirements. First, the announcement of the date for the National Forum of Education, which is expected. Second aspect on that space, or on the status, that we cannot let go and that cannot be awarded to us within the framework of a particular status. Those are the two minimum actions expected from the government for us to stop our call for strike for now.
The teachers' organization is asking for the regularization of staff working in public schools, immediate payment of allowances due to examiners, and the signing of collective convention for private teachers.
We did not want something very radical because we are aware of the little steps that have been made by the government in order to solve our problems. Yet the problems have not been solved actually.
The third term is the shortest and most crucial as learners prepare for promotion and certificate exams, and the teachers are conscious, but only the end shall justify the means.
And now, in recent weeks, Mayo South, that's a locality in the country's south region, has consistently claimed the headlines with reports of gruesome killings. In fact, within the space of 2 months, 6 deaths, 4 serious injuries have been documented in the area with no trace of the whereabouts of the perpetrators. Now, traditional leaders in that part of the country are stepping up to say enough is enough. They've issued a 14-day ultimatum for the killers to be pinpointed and brought to book. D. Maureen reports.
A wave of deadly violence in the town of Mayo Centre has prompted an emergency gathering of traditional rulers from the Valley de Tem division. The chiefs met over the weekend to urgently address what they described as an escalating security crisis. In just 2 months, the community has recorded at least 6 deaths and 4 serious injuries linked to a string of violent incidents. In response, the Traditional Council has invoked an ancestral ritual known as Cho, a cultural practice believed to identify perpetrators and avenge the dead.
Ça a toujours eu lieu dans les cas des crimes sans raison. Ça permet non seulement d'attraper l'ennemi, mais de venger également le mort.
As part of their measures, the chiefs concluded cleansing rituals at crime scenes, graves, and the central marketplace. Efforts aimed at removing the spirit of dirt and restoring calm among residents.
And that's how we saw it on this edition of the news tonight. Thanks once again for the privilege of your company. Fervent greetings from the entire production crew. We will be coming back to the story concerning a letter to the governors from the Minister of Territorial Administration banning the activities of heavyweights, or the so-called gros bras in French. That story will be developed further tomorrow. And as I was saying, stay safe, run from trouble on the double. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.